as a kid, I never had a problem with being fearless. Like most young boys, I had courage like you could not believe. I thought I could do anything. And then on top of all of that courage, I had parents and mentors, grandpas, you name it, that gave me permission to be curious. And so really, I loved being that fearless, courageous superhero, but then I always loved being very curious about new things in life. But now as an adult, a lot of those things really haven't changed with me. Like take, for example, back about 10, 15 years ago, I'm living in Chicago and it's Halloween night. My wife and I join another couple and we decide that we're going to go out to dinner and then go enjoy a couple very well produced haunted houses. We thought we would just be kids again. So the four of us, we enter the first haunted house. And I mean, these guys did it right. And I mean, we were scared on every corner. We were shocked on every corner. It was just so much fun. So now we get done, we're thinking, okay, we got to do another one because this one was just too much fun. It's too early in the night. So we find another one close by, and it was probably even better than the first one. I'm thinking, how can anybody put this much money and production into these haunted houses? So we do the first two. We're adults. We're thinking, okay, we've had enough. So we start to drive home, and we see this sign at an elementary school for their haunted house. And we're thinking, oh, it's not going to be anything close to what we just experienced. But you know what? Let's go back, get back to the community, and we'll go experience a junior or an elementary school haunted house. So we go in. There's no one in line, so we're thinking, it must be the end of the night for the kids and everything. And about that time, someone shows up, and he was just kind of off, and we're thinking maybe he's part of the act, maybe he's just a tired teacher or parent, whatever. So he leads us through this door, and I mean, it was black. And all of a sudden, I realize I don't have my wife next to me. I don't know where she's at. And before you know it, people started coming out of every corner. You walked around these corners, and someone was out to scare the holy heck out of you. And about that time, on the far end of the gymnasium where this haunted house was, I hear my wife yelling, "Roger!" And I mean, she had total fear in her voice. And so all of a sudden now I'm starting to panic because my poor wife is panicking and she's afraid. So now I'm trying to hurry to get through my section, which I had no idea really was. And I mean, people are trying their best to scare me, but I was not scared because I had to go help my wife. And I'm hearing Roger at just piercing degrees of loudness. I mean, she was so frightened. So I get to the end, I finally catch up with her. I get her calmed down. And I realize that, it might not have been the most creative, but how they separate us at the very beginning, it was ideal. I mean, it was just ideal. And I'm thinking now in real life as an adult, how many times are we afraid of something and we need to get that courage back at us? We've all had those experiences. We've had losses, we've had frustrations, we've had, you name it. And none of them are positive unless you can try to find something positive in them, but you have to really seek high. They're really negative situations happen to us, but we need to somehow find that courage to really move forward, step up and move forward with the next day, the next week, whatever in our life. And that's what we're going to talk about today, because quite honestly, there's too much fear in this world. Some of it is just, but some of it is just made up because of social media or what the news has been saying or just what your best friend's been saying. But the fact of the matter is there's too much fear and not enough courage. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And I can't wait to have this conversation with my guest speaker, Michelle Hamady. How are you? And welcome.
Great. Thanks, Roger. Thank you so much. It's awesome to be here. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you. So Michelle is a creative transformational coach, and she's one of the authors of Soul Alchemy. And I read her chapter in this book, and all that resonated with me was really courageousness and really curiosity. And this is what we're going to talk about today. And I can't think of a more ideal person to really talk about courage and curiosity than Michelle. So Michelle, before we get started, why don't you tell the audience a little bit more about you?
Okay. Well, as you mentioned, I'm a creative transformation coach, and I think the theme throughout my life has just been transformation. And it comes through the threads of courage and curiosity. And I loved your story, especially when you mentioned how they creatively separated you and your wife to have that experience. And it reminds me of how I've gone through life using that creativity to pull together, the threads of courage and curiosity to create, the story of my life too. And it's what I help others to do as well, to take those moments of life, to see the goal, to see the transformation, to see the process, and to kind of see the courage, to help people see the courage within themselves, and to always root back into that. And it takes away the charge from any fears that may be going on. And as you mentioned, there's so much fear that is perpetuated out in the world now.
Yeah. And this is episode number 214 of the Everyone Has a Story. And you are the perfect guest speaker for Everyone Has a Story, because you do have a very unique story, really stories. And everybody needs to get that book, Soul Alchemy, and at least read your chapter, because it is eye-opening, to say the least, especially when you're talking and thinking about courage and curiosity. But before we get started, besides just being a transformational coach, you and I now have had a number of conversations, which I thoroughly enjoy. And I've almost come to count on you as being that alchemist in my life, to kind of help me with processes that we all go through in our day-to-day challenges and just our day-to-day happenings in life. And I look at you as really a trailblazer, a pathfinder, to help people get on the path that's right for them, but then also to really experience the journey on that path, as opposed to just putting them on the path and saying, okay, now I'll go up 100 yards, take a right, you might see this, you might see that, and whatever. You really take them down that path almost hand in hand. And that's really what I think, that's most unique about you, that you take the time to be alongside that client, that person, in your pathfinder with them. I just love that. So anyway, welcome. Let's get started here. So we're talking about curiosity and courage. What is curiosity to you?
So curiosity is that desire. It's what we're all born with, that desire to know more, to grow, to learn, to take in the world and experience as much as we can. And curiosity for me is the ultimate key that opens up the possibilities. And without that, we never get the opportunity to explore beyond what we already know. And it's an invitation to kind of invite us, to take that step beyond, to explore what else is out there. What does it look like? And in that expansion, comes to growth, which is that never-ending process in life. But if we don't give curiosity that chance, then we just kind of stay in that stagnant place where a lot of us might find ourselves in, periodically in life.
Now, where does creativity play a role in this process?
So creativity goes hand in hand, I believe, with curiosity, because curiosity is what opens you up to the possibilities, but then the creativity is the process. It's the action. It's taking those ideas, taking those possibilities, and now you get to do something with them. And we are all, beings of unlimited potential, creative potential. And when we take those two, it's like anything is possible, but we have to have that courage to even be curious, to look at and open the key and see the possibilities. And then also to take the courageous step to think, all right, what is the next step I want to do? What do I want to take? What do I want to create? And that begins to kind of create and shape your life. And it takes courage there too, because a lot of times when you're stepping into that, you're stepping into an unknown. unknown spot. And, and that's kind of where some of that fun and excitement and some of that fear could come in too. And that's where balancing that curiosity and just really having that inner child, that wonder of the inner child kind of come alive to help lead you and guide you forward.
Yeah, I have to say, I love my inner child. I get along with him really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I'm getting later in my years, I just love my inner child. So it sounds like to me that courage is almost like the glue that really keeps the curiosity and creativity together. Is that how it's applied?
I would say so. It's definitely it's the anchor, and like the heart is the center of the courage, and at the root of courage is core, which is your heart too. And so when you are anchored in that core of who you are, the heart of who you are, that's where that courage is, and that kind of helps give you that fuel to move forward with that curiosity, to take that fire of that creative energy and do something with what you might discover within that curiosity. So yeah, just having that feeling of the courage being the glue to hold all that together really brings that into full circle.
Yeah. Now, there's a lot of talk out there with today's business, the organizations, the structure, the infrastructure of the business, the employees, the management, the hierarchical status of each employee, that, a lot of people are fearful that if they do anything that's outside the norm, that there's going to be trouble handed to them, and obviously none of us want to go to work every day where you're fearful that you can't even think outside the box or be somewhat curious about, could this be done a little bit easier or smarter or whatever. I've been taught my whole life, don't work smarter or don't work harder, work smarter.
Mhm.
And so many times I talk to business owners and managers and team leaders and even frontline employees, and they almost are like robots. They have been showed a process, they've been introduced to a system, and now that's it. Stay within your boundaries. You got probably a threshold of 0.0001% error. So stay within that fine-tuned whatever and go forward. But I know even some of the people who just have that personality to just do that every day, they find ways how to be creative and to really make that boring job just a little bit more exciting. So tell us, how does this apply in your eyes to the organization and the business-like structure?
Hmm. So I've seen so many aspects of this. I've experienced it firsthand, and it's really interesting. It's to be in an environment where it is very structured and to be limited in that, as an individual, as a person, it does become kind of, you feel like your hands are tied behind your back. And a lot of times it just depends on the organization you're working for, and because it all comes from the top down, and the managers, the management team, the owner, and how do they embrace the creativity or even the curiosity to kind of let go of some of those more rigid controls. And for the individuals within the organization, it helps if there's, when you don't feel so alone and isolated, it helps, because I think what it comes down to is a lot of times in those environments, you feel like you're the only one. You feel very robotic in a sense. And if you are feeling limited and constrained and you feel isolated and alone, it makes all the difference if there's a sense of connection with another person or a group or somebody else in the organization, which kind of helps keep that heart ignited within you and keep that human piece involved
Yep.
and alive.
So going back to my story about my childhood, feeling fearless, courage was around every corner. I could face anything, and I always had that curiosity to really do some exploring. So I know how free I felt. You've talked about that freedom, that feeling of freedom.
Mhm.
I remember how free I felt. I could just keep myself busy for hours and hours and hours, go home, drink my Kool-Aid, get my snack, and get right back out there and face whatever I'm going to face again as being that superhero or whatever. So tell us now, in our adult world, what are some of those real results that people can face and experience, and the organization itself can experience when you take that time, that step to be courage, to introduce yourself to that courage again, and then really show off your curiosity that might lead to your creativity?
Mhm. I think, and a lot of it ties into that freedom of the inner child again, right? To just explore. And there is no pressure of failure. I think everything becomes an exploration, and everything, I think what happens, and I've seen it and I've experienced it for myself too, is we get so caught up with living our lives, and we start out with good, great intentions. To be successful, we have our goals, we have our achievements, we want to, things that we want to accomplish and experience. And then next thing you know, we get kind of swept away in life. We get caught up in life. We get caught up in the busyness of life. And now all of a sudden we have this thing that we're so afraid of what might happen. If we lose control, it'll fail. Something will go wrong. But if we can go back to that giving ourselves permission to experiment and not look at things as a success or failure, it opens up that door to that curiosity again, to explore. And that's where so much learning and other avenues of possibilities open up too. Because when you do that, it's instead of looking at something as a possible failure, it reframes it like, okay, that didn't happen the way I expected it to. So that's a surprise. Well, what happened? Let's see what did happen. Let's see what I could do differently next time. How can I change this? Or what could I have done better? Or, oh, this is something unexpected. This is like a seed that I can use for another time. So now all of a sudden, this thing that you might have been afraid to do, but now you've given yourself permission to try it. It didn't go the way you expected it, but it's not a failure because now you've got these 10 other options and possibilities that have opened up and a wealth of information there. And then from there, you just keep going. And that's kind of part of life, like when we were kids growing up, we would just dust ourselves off and just keep going. And if we could embrace that nature again, to be courageous enough to explore the what ifs. I think a lot of times, we get paralyzed in the fear, of the unknown. So we get paralyzed in our fear of thinking, well, what if it goes wrong? What if this happens? And if we can just kind of tap back into the curiosity, just the shift of thinking, well, what if I do it this way? What if I was to try this? All of a sudden you feel that sense of wonder, ease, and it opens up this door to possibilities. And, that can give you unexpected surprises that you would have closed yourself off to previously had you not had, stepped into that bit of courage to even think outside the box and try something.
It sounds like you've walked down that path a couple times, and I know you have. So well said. So, Michelle, put your coaching hat on now, and I want to hear some of your recommendations, some of your solutions on how an individual, an employee, a manager, an owner can implement some of these mindsets into their life.
Mm. So the biggest thing, the first thing that I love to do is help people get reconnected back to the heart of who they are, the core of who they are, because that's probably one of the first things that gets lost in the busyness of life. We start off, as I mentioned, we start off with these great intentions, but then everything in life becomes the focus, and we lose the focus from ourselves. We become disconnected from ourselves. So bringing that back, bringing your heart, your passion, your soul back into it, reconnect yourself back in as a human being, not this robot trying to keep your business afloat. And then from there also, as a manager, as a business owner, you're looking at any employees that you have too. And you want to, a lot of times there's a disconnect there also. And the employees may feel like just robots coming in to do the task. And it becomes this transactional piece, and it's just all about the mind coming in to do the task as a robot, and their heart, they're disconnected from themselves and their heart also. And it's when people start to feel a connection, like as I mentioned, it's so easy to feel disconnected in this world where there's so much possibilities to be connected with so many people. And you could be in the same office building with thousands of people, but yet feel so disconnected and isolated at the same time. So having that heart connection, having those meaningful connections makes all the difference in the world. Just having, it opens up the compassion, it opens up the care, it opens up the caring for other human beings that you're with, caring for yourself, knowing that you matter, knowing that that what you're doing matters, that there's value in the job that you're doing, just from just the simple fact that you're there and you matter. You're not a robot, you're a human being. And those are the pieces that it sounds so simple, and it's just the basics, and that's like the basic that's easily lost and misplaced in this world. And it's just such an important foundation to bring back.
I know that you use as one of your tools, your key tools in your toolbox of coaching, the Mandela. Tell us about that.
I love that because it is a tool that's perfect for self-discovery. And what it does, as I mentioned earlier, we're all, creative. We've got so much creative potential within us. And when we can connect back to who we are and reclaim that creative potential within each one of us, we engage our curiosity, we step into the courage of who we are, everything that got us up to this point in life, and just kind of reclaim all those good qualities about us that we've kind of lost. And the mandala is this amazing tool that it brings you back to the heart of who you are. And it takes you on this journey into your inner world. And sometimes we get bombarded with so much, as you mentioned, just inundated with so much information and media and everything externally that we really forget who we are on the inside. And this gives you an opportunity to take that journey inward and see yourself in a different way, experience yourself in a different way, feel yourself in a different way. And it really, I love to think of it as like a mosaic of your soul, a mosaic of who you are, because we are, and that brings the creative piece back to it too, because we tend to think of things as puzzle pieces, and everything has to fit in a perfect place. But there's so many pieces of us that don't fit exactly right, but that doesn't mean we're broken. That doesn't mean there's something wrong with us. It's just us and our wholeness and our experiences. It gives us a way to see and appreciate our experiences in a different way, and to see the uniqueness that we bring.
That's great insight, and I love that tool. So let's talk about you know, their courage to step forward. I know that I've had the benefit of having a mentor, an accountability partner, a colleague that I could always count on because, as a general manager, you're sitting at the top of the totem pole and you're not supposed to show weakness. You're not supposed to, you know, hang around with the frontline troops. You're supposed to be in that ivory tower. And and it gets lonely up there. And all of a sudden the only person you have to shoot things off is your own self. And so when you're trying to have those spaghetti meetings where you're thinking about all the options, really you only have one judge there and it's you.
Mhm.
And it's hard to really keep the courage up when it's always you in your own thought process and your own filters. So I know that you think really highly, and one of your tools or recommendations at least is to have an accountability partner. Tell us about that.
And it ties in perfectly with what you just said, because a lot of times we are on this journey and we feel like we're alone and we're in that tower by ourselves. And then the only voice we have is our own voice. And sometimes that judge is not so kind, and it's ready to tear us apart, not support us and bring us up. So having an accountability partner is someone that can help you see your own strengths a little more clearly. And it kind of helps when you know there's an accountability partner. It's like you just knowing that you're not alone makes a difference in so many things. And it's so funny because as crowded and as populated and as surrounded by people we are, it's like what you mentioned, going through life, we have to put up this front and be successful and not show any weaknesses or vulnerabilities. And all of us have those moments where we're not so sure. We've got those self-doubts. And having an accountability partner, and it's different too, because a lot of times in the business world, we're so used to hearing accountability is you check in, you're responsible, and this is your duty and your obligation, and check off. It's a checklist. But an accountability partner in this situation is someone that provides that support, which is missing. And that's that human piece, that the connections that we're missing with people and with one another. And the support doesn't come in the way of saying, you need to do this and, you need to be held accountable. It's more like that person. The way that I visualize it is like a mountain climber. And they've got those tools as they're going up the mountain, and they're sticking those things, I don't know what they are, picks or nails, into the mountain as they're climbing. And it's strong, it's sturdy, and it holds you up. And if you have someone alongside of you while you're going through your process, sometimes that's enough to help you kind of keep your head above water too, so that you can keep climbing this mountain that you're climbing up. And as you're doing that, it also helps for you to see the strength in your own self and to see the value. And it comes back to, when I say seeing the value in yourself, the support is there to kind of show you that you have that value, but the support isn't there to tell you how valuable you are. It's just kind of reflecting that back to you and showing your own strength as you're going up this mountain, and just allowing you to recognize that and recognize the strength that you have, and to kind of give you that encouragement and support to keep going.
Well said. Well, very well said. And everybody out there, I can tell you right now, having that accountability partner that you can trust, share things with, it lightens your load. So when you are trying to climb that mountain, you don't have all that excess weight on you. And it's a beautiful feeling, an open feeling, and very free feeling. Michelle, I can't thank you enough for being my guest speaker today. This has been absolutely a treat for me, and I'm sure all the listeners out there. Leave us with one more little piece of that alchemist in you, that little bit of inspiration in you to set us off on our day.
Well, the alchemist in me, because I love to change things and see the, shift perspective. So a great way, what I like to do is think of every moment in your life as another opportunity to create something new. Each moment gives you those possibilities. And this is how you begin to shape and create your life and who you are and the direction that you want to go. Right now with so much chaos and craziness out there, it's so easy to kind of get lost in what's going on in the world, and reconnecting back to the core of who you are, the certainty and the confidence of who you are, helps moving forward, even though you might not be confident in whatever you're getting ready to tread into. You know that you are confident within your own abilities. And with that, with each moment, you have the power to choose how you're shaping your life in being creative, and following your courage to be curious, to see how the path unfolds.
Well, thank you again. If someone out there that's listening or watching wants to get in touch with you, how can they get in contact with you?
Yes. Well, I have a website, michellehamady.com. I'm also on LinkedIn, Michelle Hamady, Facebook page also. And this has been an absolute pleasure, Roger. Thank you so very much for having me as your guest on today.
You're very welcome. The first of many, I'm sure.
I look forward to it.
My podcast wouldn't be the same if it wasn't for my sponsors and my great supporters. So let me take this opportunity to thank each and every one of them. First of all, I want to thank Rebecca at Custom Bookkeeping and Accounting, delivering trustworthy bookkeeping services since 2003. Dave and Dara at Virtues Matter, making this world a much happier place to be with their Virtues card apps, coaching, and workshops. Stephen at Buller Accounting, giving business owners depth and insight to their numbers. Eric and his team at Ivy Cat Web Design, the real superheroes of web development and design. Jennifer and Jean at the Seavers Real Estate Team, serving Pierce and Kitsap counties with their home buying and selling needs. Maury at the Maury Method, the world's only brainwave entrainment engineer, helping everyone have more clarity, less stress, and overall better brain health. Priya at Pivot My Profit, helping individuals and businesses have better control of their finances and more money at the end of their day. Melissa at the Soul Vibe Energy High, the queen of the aha moments, helping individuals find those holes in their cups, repair the hole, and gain back their positive energy. And finally, Rick at West Sound Recording. You talk, they do all the rest. Thank you, Rick, for all your efforts with the production and editing of my podcast.